What's up, everybody? It's Jeffrey Lyles, welcoming you to another edition of Lyles Figure Files. Yesterday, we got a whole onslaught of Mattel's WWE products for WrestleMania weekend. Happy WrestleMania weekend for those of you who celebrate. And I was blown away by so much stuff they showed. The Sandman, Headbangers, more Coliseum Collection figures. That Dragon, $1 Million Man figure looked amazing. Finally, a proper skin tone Farouk to lead the Nation of Domination. We were getting more of those guys, and I kept looking at the dark skinned Farouk I had on my shelf, like, man, this figure would be so great if they just nailed the skin tone. Now we finally got that, so I'm really happy about that. And during last night's live, there's a particularly interesting comment where it was raised that, man, I love to get these figures, but I don't even know where to start. And led me to thinking there are some lines that I have not collected because I got into it too late. And older, important, essential characters were way too expensive for me to decide, all right, I'm here. And then, like, whoa, they're how much I'm out. And but I think Mattel does a really good job in terms of keeping core essential players continually in rotation. So it's not like, all right, let me take out a loan to get into this line. And I was trying to decide, like, all right, I want to start this. This seems like something that would be fun to explore across multiple lines. But we're going to start with WWE, with Mattel's WWE line, because it is WrestleMania weekend. And yeah, there are different eras that I could have started off with. Could have done Hulkamania, since it's 40 years of Hulkamania this year. I could have gone with the Ruthless Aggression era. I could have done the territory section. Now we're getting territory figures. But I decided for someone who's new to getting into Mattel's WWE line and they're focused on one particular time frame, how hard would it be to build up an essential WCW collection? And not just any WCW collection, but specifically from the Nitro era, talking about 1997. I feel like that was their peak. Had so many big moments, big spectacles. Uncensored 97 is one of my all-time favorite crowd reactions because finally we get the answer. Sting, WCW, or is he NWO? For life. Anyhow, and I was like, all right, well, I could go with 30, 40 characters, figures, Mattel's release. So many of them are incorporated during that time period, the Nitro era of WCW, and some of them are still around when the NWO was reigning terror throughout the promotion. But I decided, let's keep it simple. Let's not even go to 20. Let's do about 15, give or take a few extras for some tag teams that need to be included in this mix. So who are the 15, 17 essential players to have a quality WCW shelf? And how much and what means would you need to go to actually get them? So let's start off with, I guess, the most important one, the one that makes the most sense, one of the centerpieces of a Nitro, of a WCW 97 display. And I'm talking about the man that chops it down with the edge of his hand, Hollywood Hogan. I mean, you just can't do a WCW Nitro era collection without this guy in one form or the other. And the figure I chose for the definitive version of him is his Ultimate Edition figure. Now, this is one of those deals where if the Hollywood Hogan figure is too much, where are you going to go? I mean, it's just going to be hard to start right away. Fortunately, he's not too crazy. This isn't a figure where you're going to have to break the bank to start off your Nitro collection. Hollywood Hogan is available right now on Amazon, and this is the improved one. There's two different versions. One is where Mattel is still trying to figure out the formula on how to get Hogan's skin tone just so. This one is the updated one, and this one has the darker skin tone that Hollywood and Hulk Hogan rocked for most of his time in wrestling. You can get them now. It's $32.99. That is the pre-order price from Amazon. So good to go. And this is really important because if you got to go $70 to start off with Hollywood, it's going to be a whole bad proposition. Fortunately, in the case for a WCW 97 era time frame collection, it's not going to be too expensive. I thought maybe, I mean, I knew it was going to be a couple hundred because they're just, I mean, just by virtue of some of these 2-packs and multi-packs that you need to get different figures, but it wasn't as expensive as I thought. So if you're one of these people who want to watch it and pause as I go along, put in the comments how much you think it would cost. And then as I break this down, let's see if you were right. So next up, after Hollywood, and I mean, you got to go along with this theme. The NWO is what revolutionized wrestling. And it dramatically changed the future of WCW, at least for a little while. And you got Hollywood, you've got to have the other two. I'm talking about the outsiders. Fortunately, if you're late to the line, you haven't really missed them yet. Hall and Nash are coming with their definitive versions, the Ultimate Edition figures later on this year at Ringside Collectibles. And so you get them, you get the tag titles, which is essential. You get ring gear, multiple head sculpts. So the Ultimate Edition is probably, it's not probably, it's going to be my preference. It's going to be the way I recommend how you get all these figures throughout this whole deal. So if there's an Ultimate Edition version, I'm going to say go for that one. And yes, some of them already have figures, and in some cases they're more expensive than the more articulated, more display option Ultimate Edition figure. So this is what you get with these guys, and truly the way to go to get Hall and Nash into your collection. And like I said, Ringside has them. They since raised the price because before WrestleMania weekend they were 74. Now I guess they're taking advantage of all the hype and buzz. So they're now $84.99, $42.99 a piece. But let's take a look at what they include, because this is really great options. So you see here, we've got the iconic Outsiders t-shirt for both of them. So one for Hall and Nash. And you got the standard black and white NWO shirt. That's cool. You see the different options for what Hall's got. He's got the I just threw a toothpick at you and you're coming at me. Ooh, I'm so scared. He's got a smiling one and a serious one. The latter two we've seen with the Razor Ramon figures. No need to change them up. But the shaking in my boots head sculpt's awesome for Hall. And you see he's got the hands so he can glide on in or do the I'm taunting you kind of thing. And so we've got that. We've got the two sweet hand sculpt and the tag titles. Nash is basically the same thing. Two sweet hand sculpts, tag title, NWO shirt, cloth, of course, the vest and outsider shirt. And it looks like he's got more head sculpt options than we've seen before. So I know this yellow one we've seen with Diesel, it definitely looks like different hair. For the smiling one, that's very fitting for him. Maybe we've seen this third one. I don't know about that one, but pretty good set. And if you wanted Hall and Nash, you've got them right here. So there you go. The Outsiders, Hollywood Hogan, and I've got the NWO kind of grouped up so you can follow along in terms of the cost if you're keeping score at home. Next up for me is I mean, you got to have this guy, and wherever you line him up on your display, I kind of have him straddling the middle. So he's in between WCW and the NWO because he was a force either way. And of course, I'm talking about the Giant. And the Giant is tricky because Mattel released several versions of Paul White, The Big Show, etc. along his time, and they've cranked out several figures. But I think by far the best head sculpt is the Championship Showdown version. This is a basic figure, comes with a Ric Flair figure. They're not overly expensive. I think when last I looked through Yahoo, through Amazon, they were $45 for this set. Now, depending on your need for a highly articulated giant figure, this might be enough. If you want to go the full route, which I would recommend because he actually can do this stuff, I would go with this Ultimate Edition Andre the Giant figure. And this one just came out. He's weirdly more expensive than I would think, but we know Mattel's not able to do more Big Show figures simply because Paul White is over at AEW, which means that's not going to be an option. That's not going to be something that works. So you're short. You're going to have to pay a little bit more for him. And that, of course, means you're going to be paying a lot more for another one who's even more important than the Giant himself. So, like I said, here's the way I would do this. I would get this Ric Flair Giant 2-pack set up here. I do that, and it's $44.99, so it's not awful by back market standards. These basic figures are not really a great deal in terms of like, oh man, here they go. So it's not like, oh wow, I really made out well here. Not really. I mean, the Flair head sculpt's fine. The Giant head sculpt, though, is fantastic. And I wish he had a little bit better articulation because I might say, go for it. But since it's not that great, you don't worry with that. And so then you go with this Ultimate Edition, Andre the Giant. And this figure, oops, there we go. Let's fix some stuff. All right. He's got great articulation, more than Andre needs. And so he's got all these different head sculpts. Not a big deal. The important thing is his price, $49.99. It's probably more than you might want to pay, but the Giant was doing dives off the top rope. He was very agile for his size. And with Ultimate Edition figure, you can have those butterfly shoulders, which allow for better choke slams from the Giant. So there's another option. He's going to run you a little bit more if you go all out. But I think for such a pivotal character during this time period, it's worth it to go that route. So he's one that's sneakily expensive because you need to cobble some parts together to get a good one. Now they have an Elite Giant, but the head sculpt is very cartoonish. He came out way back in Elite 22. So he's the only one that really works. They have Big Show figures, of course, and they've got the big tattoo. So it kind of eliminates that from consideration. He's bald. So this is the way to go, I think. And I really love that head sculpt they have for the Giant anyway. So that's for me a real winner. You might have seen the next one. I didn't time that up properly. I should have swapped him in the other one so I could number him as he should be. But next up is 6. 6 is another one that's weirdly expensive. But when I think of the NW, I think of like the original 7, 8. I think of Hogan, Hall and Nash, the Giant as the first order. And then, DiBiase, Vince, 6, NWO Sting. And then I kind of take or leave Big Bubba, Michael Wall Street, but I definitely want to get some others. But anyway, 6 is important to me. And he's going to run you a little bit more money than I would have liked because, we hadn't had a lot of figures. And a lot of times when Mattel does him, they go with the X-Pac version. So he's expensive sneakily. I did not find him on Amazon. You're going to have to go through other routes. Macari seems like the best option. It looks like you're going to spend around 35 to 40 on him. And I think when I did my factoring up on this, I think I chalked him up as 40, just so you're not being set up and like, oh, just said who's gonna be 35. But you can probably find him cheaper than the 40 that I estimated. You see like men on card, some are a little bit more expensive, and 40 seems to be the standard loose presentation. And I don't know if you need him, but I think he does come with a really cool accessory piece, and that is a backstage segment for SummerSlam. And that hole there in the middle, so you can put the SummerSlam sign, but you could also probably just throw some other ones up if you wanted. But I think that's a really cool piece. So I wouldn't recommend going loose with him. But you see, he's got on the back, he's got the 6-ball cue ball shirt. And too bad it's not cloth, but it's fine in that end. So about $35, $40 is what you're going to spend on him. And because it's really would have been easy to just go with a ton of NWO figures, I decided let's keep it pretty simple. Let's not go too overboard. Let's limit them to 6. And Giant can go either way. So there you go. Next up is one that is essential to me for the NWO. And I said all that to say we got to get this guy. Or you got to get this guy. We've got him in figure form. Mattel's knocked him out, scratched him off the list before seemingly losing the license on this guy. And I'm talking about the Macho Man, specifically in his NWO attire. And this is a really good figure because it comes with 2 t-shirts. So you can go with the Macho Man behind bars. I love that one. The sprawling paint speckled madness, and with the matching headband. 3 head sculpt options. The Macho Man figures tend to be really fun in the Ultimate Edition format, and that is by far the one I would suggest. Highly recommend on that with him because you can get that flying elbow drop so much better. And Macho Man isn't terrible price wise. You're not going to have to spend anything extra. Again, you can get him now, and him, Hogan, I definitely would recommend getting them now while they're still regular price because at some point they're going to be more expensive, and that's when it's going to be like, oh, should have gotten them earlier. So you can get him right now from Amazon again, my affiliate partner, and he's $32.99, really good price. And I feel like that's a solid price for what we get with those Ultimate Edition figures, especially the different display options for a guy like Macho who would wear different attires for this. Excuse me. So we've got Macho Man. We've got six. We've got the Giant. We've got the Outsiders. We've got Hogan. We need some people to start fighting our NWO. And, you know, if you have Macho Man in your NWO, the Giant is Team WCW. And if you got him, then you need his best friend in this war against the NWO. And I'm talking about the total package, Lex Luger. And Mattel had released several Luger figures over the year, but it wasn't until last year that we got a Lex Luger that really fits in perfectly with the Monday Night Wars, Nitro, battling the NWO every week version of the total package. So we've got him in this Legend Series 15 look. Now, you might want to get the Chase because it has the early 90s version of Luger with white boots. And Luger did wear black boots, like this figure comes with as a default. I like the white boot look for him because it kind of made more sense. But this one also has the Wolfpack t-shirt. So if you want to start splitting off your NWO, you've got that option. So he offers a little bit of variety. I wouldn't need this in this case since it's more of a 97 theme, but there's that option. And again, I'd recommend grabbing the Chase so you can get the white boots or just attach any white boots you might have with any other figure for him. And you can get him right now from Target, another one of my affiliates, for $22.99. And you know, if you were lucky enough to find him in stores, you probably were able to get him for $8 when they were clearancing him out. But fortunately, Mattel and Target keep their exclusives pretty well set, so you don't have to worry like, oh man, I missed it. You can get it without having to pay ridiculous aftermarket prices. So that's really good. In the case of Lex, you got to have him. He was the main dude fighting the NWO for most of 97. So got to have him. Got to have the Giant. So you've got two Titans battling against the NWO through this whole run. Now, I said Luger and Giant were the main heavy hitters, but there was one guy standing in the shadows, observing everything. He was the most important character during this time period. Of course, I'm talking about Sting, not even an icon yet. He was just the man in the shadows, in the silhouettes of the arenas, checking out everything. Now, this is where if you're going to start your WCW Nitro display from 97 ish, this is the one that's going to cost you. But I feel like this one is one of my favorite figures in the entire line. So it's worth it. And you're not going to regret getting this figure, despite how costly it's going to be. So this Crow Sting was part of Mattel's Defining Moments line when they restarted again. And he is not cheap. And you can find some cheap enough versions online. He's not on Amazon, but here are some options for you. $40 for the loose one. I wouldn't recommend that one because I think the jacket they included with him fits so well, and it's not too baggy, too bulky like we've seen with some other parts, some other cloth goods. This one fits him perfectly, and I think that one just kind of makes sense for him. But you can see it gets expensive. Macari has them for 112 and $8 delivery. eBay 215, 160 on eBay. You can find another loose one for 57. You know, it's like, okay, 65. So Sting options are there, but you're going to pay for them, especially since people are like, let me autograph it. Let me get this thing done. This one seems like the best option, $90 or 95 all told, and you get everything included with them. People are still going to try to throw in some older other versions, maybe they're TNA versions. So be careful. Make sure you see the picture. This one's really good. This has everything. So Sting is going to run you, let's say conservatively, $100, but you might be able to find him for a cheaper deal. He's the one I would recommend if you want to start a WCW Mattel collection to set alerts and watch every Sting Crow option auction that you see out there, because you definitely want him as one of your centerpieces. most likely standing facing off against Hollywood on your display. So you'd want to have him. And yeah, he's going to be the one that you want to get as cheap as possible, but he's a really great figure. So after Sting, we've got him squared away. A big, major, important part of this line. You need the Nature Boy Ric Flair, and he was not leading the charge. He was often, frequently, a punching bag to the NWO, but he started fighting back with whatever versions of the Horsemen were around at that period in time. Arn Anderson, Mongo, some guy a lot of people don't like to mention, but the Horsemen fought really hard, but they weren't doing their thing as much as they were. Flair was teaming with other people, including Kevin Green. So you don't really need the four horsemen. And I considered Arn Anderson and some other guys, but I felt like this was the one, going solo with Flair made the most sense. And Mattel and Amazon are giving you a break if you spend so much money getting that Sting figure. You can get this Elite 92 Ric Flair for a much more reasonable price. Now, the only caveat to this figure is he's in yellow, and Flair didn't really wear those colors at that time period. I mean, it was the darkness of the NWO, the specter, the shadow of the NWO was falling all over World Championship Wrestling. And a lot of people ditched their colorful outfits. And Flair was traditionally wearing black or red tights during his time period. Flair is an AEW, so you really don't want to, you can't be too picky in terms of what attire you get with him. So that's why I suggest, hey, just chalk it up. This Elite 92 figure is fine. You get him with his standard kind of look. And if you're feeling so inclined, take some black paint and do it yourself. But here you go. This one's really a nice break on your wallet. $17.95. You can get him now, and he's one that's probably eventually going to get more expensive. So I recommend not waiting too long. He's kind of hovered at this price throughout the year, anywhere from 15 to 18 to 24. This is a solid price point for him, and one that you won't be too disappointed with. But he's a really nice figure. I would recommend the Ultimate Edition, but you're going to have to do the head swap. Now, here's where if you've got that Giant and Flair Championship Showdown 2-pack, you're covered because you've already got a head sculpt that you can swap out. And actually make some use of that Flair figure as opposed to what I normally do, which is just have him in the background and just not really having any purpose in the collection. Now, here's one that hasn't even come out yet, but you're going to want to make sure you get this maybe locked up on a pre-order so you don't miss it. And we've got Sting, we've got Luger, we've got the Giant, and Flair kind of like a six main hero in this point. But there's another guy who really rose to stardom during this period. Of course, I'm talking about the guy with a self high five, the Diamond Cutter, Diamond Dallas Page, DDP. Mattel has done different versions of him with his tights. And if he was rocking tights for most of 97, but he started going to jeans, which he would wear through most of this tippy top of the card run that he had. Now, I kind of like the the lighter blue jeans. The chase is darker, or vice versa. Hasbro. Mattel hasn't mentioned which one we're getting on that front yet, in terms of which is the chase, which is the normal one. But the rib tapes are like an essential part of his costume in this era. So that's really awesome. He is part of an upcoming Monday Night Wars line. Now, we traditionally get one WCW or two WCW, two WWE figures, and then the Build-A-Figure is a toss-up. I think we've got some idea on who that Build-A-Figure might be, but they haven't announced anything. Hopefully by this panel on Sunday, we'll get some more information. But DDP is definitely somebody you're going to want to get. The standard price for DDP with these Monday Night War figures is $22.99, but he's a Walmart exclusive, which means don't wait too long. It can get really expensive on that front. Now, I did promise I was going to break down the cost of these before I got to the grand total. Now, the NWO figures, Hogan, Giant, The Outsiders, Six, and Macho Man, that's going to run you $259.97, give or take, finding a good deal on Six and the Giant. Now, Hogan, the Outsiders, and Savage are pretty locked in with their prices, but you can go lower, higher, or just skip them and have those four as your main NWO guys. But I know some people hate the everyone got led into the NWO, but 6 is an important one. Macho Man, you definitely want to have, and Giant fights both of them. And I mean, in Giant fights everyone, and you want to get a Giant figure because he's very important for either side. So there you go with that. Sting, Lex, Flair. Oops, I haven't gotten through all those. So bear with me. Still rolling through this. So right now it's 259 for the NWO. Next up, the man. And though Bret Hart might have some differences of opinion, I'm a Bret Hart guy. So just throwing that out there. You got to get a Goldberg figure. And you know, Mattel has done such a great job of populating the Nitro era of WCW that there's not a lot of heavy hitters that are like, oh man, this would be great, but if only they had so and so. Goldberg again is in Ultimate Edition form, so you got him. He comes with the United States title that looks amazing and the world title. He's got a smoke blowing head sculpt, and it is just wild, kind of crazy that they tried it. But we've got a standard, after the spear launching before he does the jackhammer, and the serious expression like shown in this picture. So you've got every look for Goldberg covered. And that's very helpful because, I mean, this dude is not super expressive. So I think they covered everything they needed to with him, which is really nice. So we got Goldberg done in figure form. I'm trying to pull up, there we go, the full price of this guy so you can see how much he costs. If everything will cooperate with me. There we go. So Goldberg, he's not as cheap as the other Ultimate Edition figures that are in Amazon on Amazon. He's $36.73, which puts him up a little bit higher, but you got to get him too. And this version Ultimate Edition allows you to get all the poses that you would possibly want or need with your Goldberg figure. Some of the other ones are okay, but this one has everything. It's got different head sculpt options, and it's got the US title, which is really important. That's a belt that hasn't been distributed as heavily as some of the other titles. So it's one where not a lot of figures are carrying it, and you'd kind of want that maybe for your DDP. So there you go. There's your options on that front. Next up, let's go on to another figure or another two figures. And like DDP, we've seen them now. No pre-order as of yet, but here you go. Actually, one of them is up for pre-order. The other sold out on Walmart.com, which is part of the problem with the fun of Walmart and pre-order. So it's just a mad dash when they start showing up in the stores. I'm talking about Harlem Heat, Booker T, Stevie Ray. Now I've got them in red. The setup, the basic form is the black that you see behind DDP. They also have a chase in blue. So we've got both versions of them. Like DDP, they're $22.99. So that takes them up to $45.94. I did not round up for everybody with taxes. So you'll have to just consider that as you consider these figures. But I don't think that's a terrible price. I might get both versions of Harlem Heat just so I can have more color, just a different look for them because I've got the red already. And it'd be really nice to have multiple versions of Harlem Heat on my shelf. They're pretty important, even if they didn't have the best talent to go against. Now, another guy that you have plenty of options, especially even in this look. I mean, he's got lots of figures, but I really appreciate the fact that Mattel cranked out old school versions of this guy who was the most buzzed about, talked about young superstar on the roster at that point, Rey Mysterio Jr. And I said Junior because, he was Junior before he came to WWE. Sorry, need a little water break. Anyway, this is from Elite 100, and this one is basically the signature version of Rey Mysterio, perfectly scaled, and not a lot of accessories. He's got the cruiserweight title, he's got two fists, and that's really all you need. And there's several different options in terms of which look you can go with for him. Different color schemes. I think they've got a purple one coming and a pink one. So if this is not your favorite, you can hunt down one more to your liking, but there is that option for Rey Mysterio. So this one is a standard elite. It's not an ultimate edition, but you're going to pay a little bit more. He is $28.49. But I think if you missed out on this one, it's a must have for your collection. He just looks really cool. The color scheme is fun for Ray, and definitely one that you want to have. to have your WCW version of him when he was just making everybody talk about his matches with Dean Malenko, Chris Jericho, and this guy. And I talked about Ray, so it makes sense to me this to go ahead to one of his most famous opponents and partners. I'm talking about Rasa, Eddie Guerrero. And Mattel has shown the Monday Night Wars Ultimate Edition Eddie Guerrero, and excuse me, and he looks amazing. The head sculpts are some of the best they've done. And it's just an awesome figure, just truly one of their best. He's got Eddie Guerrero as my favorite wrestler. So if you've got a Chavo Guerrero figure, you can put that on him now. And just exceptional work. Problem, of course, is a Monday Night Wars figure. You have to jump through the hoops of Walmart. And Walmart is not doing the greatest in terms of stocking these figures, especially online. I haven't gone to the stores yet, but here you go. Let's pull this back out. So, because as soon as I went to pull up the picture, it went to like, hey, here you go. Let's try that again. All right, there you go. Here he is, $32.97, but out of stock. Now, there's a Mankind that came with this set. He's also sold out, so it's a problem, but hopefully he will be back in stock on shelves or one of the two, because this looks like a really great figure. $32.97 for him is not bad, and it's a really good figure. So definitely one you want to have on your radar, those newcomers and longtime fans of this line. Almost at the home stretch now, and this guy is one I was kind of like, is he really as important as some of these others? And he is, but it's just kind of weird in the sense of how many things he did without wrestling as often as some of these other stars. I'm talking about the hot rod himself, Roddy Piper. Now, Piper had the distinction of outing Eric Bischoff as a member of the NWO. He gave Hogan his first loss as a member of the NWO. He was part of the reason why Macho Man turned and joined the NWO, and he was a commissioner for a while. So he was very active during the stint of WCW, which is kind of weird how they used him throughout this time. He's got the Icon t-shirt, which is very cool. He's got 2 additional head sculpts, and he's got the swappable arms, so you don't have to worry about any funny business with the jacket. He's a Monday Night Wars figure, so he's a Walmart exclusive. Now, I don't know if you're detecting a trend, but it's not great when you're trying to find these figures at Walmart because they're just not cooperating. So here's the status of Roddy Piper Ultimate Edition on Walmart.com. Not even there. So if you want an Ultimate Warrior, you can get him for cheap. That's great. But no Roddy Piper as of this time to even track down and find. It's a little bit frustrating because it's like, guys, we want these figures. We want to be able to get them without jumping through hoops. And this is the problem with Walmart exclusives. They just don't have them available as often, as frequently as Target. So there you go. He's another one. It's $32.97. So if you can find him, he's not just crazy expensive, but you might burn through a lot of gas getting to him. Now, for my last choice, this one is probably going to be a little bit controversial because there are other people, maybe Dean Malenko, that I could have put in. But in the story of 97, specifically of WCW, you'd want this guy because he matters in the overall story of everything. And I'm talking about the legend himself, Larry Zbyszko. He came in a Hall of Fame box set with an LWO t-shirt wearing Eddie Guerrero, a Wolfpack t-shirt, Kevin Nash, NWO Hollywood, Scott Hall, and Larry Z. And this is important because Zbyszko was fighting Scott Hall on and off through 97, and that led to their big showdown at Starrcade. So this is kind of cool to have Hall and Zbyszko in this 4-pack. Now, you don't have to pay the full price for this set. I didn't even look to see what that was. I figured it'd be relatively easy to find the legend for sale by himself, and I was correct with that thought. You can get him for around $25-30, not super expensive. You can find him without too much trouble. Here's one for $33 with $7 shipping, so a little bit more expensive than I would like. But here's one for $33. So, and then there are a bunch of Roomco versions, but you can find Larry. Here's another one for $43. Here's one for $25. So you can find some Larry Zbyszko figures without having to spend a whole lot. I think he's important just because you can throw him in your commentary in the Nitro booth with Eric Bischoff and Bobby the Brain Heenan if you want to, and then call out and taunt the NWO and Hall from the booth. That's why I was ashamed that Nitro Arena didn't get funded, because I felt like they could have done the table and the stand. That would have been a really great display piece. Maybe that's still something Mattel can do, but I really think he's essential for the story of WCW. Now, there's our other options. Lord Steven Regal, he was wrestling around that time period. Let's see who else. Mean Gene Okerlund. So if you want someone to do interviews, there's an option. I do recommend on his case, if you are looking, no, Zabisco was my last one. But if you want to get a Mean Gene figure, he comes as part of various Build-A-Figure waves. You might be better off just getting a Mean Gene head and then not having to worry with getting a full figure, because that can be expensive. Just find somebody in the tux, throw that Mean Gene head on, you're good. And then there's Rick Rude, another one. Just get the head sculpts from the Ultimate Warrior Survivor Series 90. He's part of the Survivor Series. Build-A-Figure is a Build-A-Figure. Came with 2 head sculpts. So both are bearded, and you can do your NWO and DX looks for Ravishing Rick Rude. That's cool. I would just get any suit. Maybe this Elite 109 Cody Rhodes. I think that would be just fine for Rick Rude in his suit. Man, guys, they've got a Kurt Hennig coming up as well as part of the Monday Night Wars set. Definitely want to grab him if you want to have a bigger, larger NWO. And then I had one other option that I would probably think that at least some of you all might consider in terms of getting the full package with this deal. In terms of the figures themselves, it's going to run you about $631.04. That might get up to like 678 after you start throwing in and factoring in taxes. But I was really impressed and happy that it wasn't more than 700. I know it's like, what, $700 for 18 figures or 16, 17 figures? Yeah, I mean, Sting alone is kind of tilting that out a little bit. Like, he's making it more expensive overall. If he were more of the $40, like some of the other expensive ones, but Sting's really important, and he's still kind of with AEW, so we're not going to get a Sting figure from Mattel anytime soon. This is the best option, and that's a figure that, unless Sting comes back to sign a licensing Legends deal with Mattel, we're not going to get a better figure. That is an awesome, irreplaceable, just keepsake. It's a really great figure. So there you go with that one. But if you want to get a full Nitro experience, the full WCW and 97 experience, there's one other option, and that is the Nitro ring, exclusive to Mattel Creations and Ringside Collectibles. It's $159, supposed to come out this month. So you get a smiling Easy E, and you got the Nitro ring, and this is a really cool set for everything that is provided. But you can get the regular Monday Night Wars Easy E2, so you've got that option if you don't want to make him with the NWO just yet. I love these rings. I don't know if I need 4 or 5 of them. Maybe a Nitro ring is cool. That way I can throw this in and just mix and match parts for WWF stuff. But here you go. Here's everything with it. It's a solid set. $159. I don't know if that's a great deal or a bad one. I think it's what it is. That's the price you're gonna have to pay to get Eric Bischoff. You don't necessarily need Ultimate Edition version of Eric Bischoff, but you can do that smiling face. So that's the option for you. So if you included that 159 Nitro ring and Ultimate Edition Eric Bischoff, that's going to take the total up to $790.04. Now, of course, you can piecemeal this and add more, but I definitely think that if you want to start this collection, get that Hogan and Savage for the NWO first, or Sting if you can find them for a really good deal. Then the Outsiders, they're not out yet. They're coming from ringside later on, so you don't have to push the panic button. They're not going to sell out, I think, I hope. And then start getting Luger. Figure out which way you want to go with the Giant. Definitely get that Ric Flair for under $20. He's solid. He's not in the red or the black, but you can work with it for him being cheaper than most of them. Probably get a Dean Malenko. I think he's one I might have thrown in if I would have definitely included him if I went to 20. And probably if I went to 16 too. Harlem Heat's must because they're like the preeminent tag team during this time period. Mattel has not shown Steiner brothers as of yet. And the Rick Steiner, the Scott Steiner don't really fit in with the 97 time period. It's more like 99 and 2000 for those guys. And I think we can get some black clad Steiner brothers eventually from Mattel. So hold off on them just yet. So there you go. Under 700, under 650. If you get those 17 figures, and then 790 if you get the Nitro ring. And if you don't have any, I think those rings are really cool and worth picking up. So there you go. Those are my suggestions if you want to build a WCW collection from Mattel's wrestling figure options. Hopefully, if you want to get into it, you'll have really good luck and won't have to spend too much on the aftermarket. Did you like this feature? Do you want to see me break down more lines, how to build a definitive Avengers lineup, Fantastic Four, X-Men, how expensive that would get? If so, let me know in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching. This means everything for the channel. If no one's watching, it doesn't matter what I'm saying. So thank you as always for watching, commenting, liking, sharing, and of course, subscribing. This episode of Lyle's Figure Files has been filed.